Alright, so this is totally unscripted. And I've been thinking about doing a number of stories before. But for whatever reason today of all days, I decided to talk a little bit about, okay, over the years, I have, um, hey TJ, can't believe you're here already. Okay, so over the years, I've had a very big interest in boats. I love boats. I love boats that fly, that float. I've never had a boat that flew, but they felt like they did. Hey, Mike, TJ, Mr. Paul, Bass. Can't believe you guys are here already. What the hell? I'm supposed to ramble on for 10 or 15 minutes before anybody shows up. I was like 5 years freaking old when the old man that lived next to me, hey Steve Mac, when the old guy, hey Matt, when the old guy lived next door to me, he had, okay, back then, if you had an under 10 horsepower motor, you didn't have to register your boat, okay? And so Willard was old school. I mean, I was 5 years old and he was old then. He ain't gonna deal with any registration stuff. So anyway, he had an old boat. It was like I don't know how old it was. He got it from Monkey Wards, is what we called it. Montgomery Wards. It was built like a battleship and it was heavy and all that crap. But he wanted to go faster, but didn't want to get a bigger than a 10 horsepower motor because that would mean he would have to register his boat. So therefore, he gave it to me. So I was a young kid, man. I was like 5 years old. He gave it to the family, but I'm the one that took off with it. Man, had the oars and all that. Dude, my arms got strong as shit from rowing that bastard. And then Dad got me a motor, and that was even better yet, you know. And it was good for my strength to lug that bastard down to the creek and put it on the boat because I kept it in the shed. It was like, I don't know, 75 yards to carry that thing down. It was almost as tall as me. Now you look at today's 10 horsepower motors and they are like half the size. But back then, a Chrysler 9.8 horsepower motor was big. I mean, it's big as a 50 horsepower motor. And probably weighed about the same for that matter. Hey, Mr. Crowley. How are you? Steve, Mr. Firefighter, Chris, Sunrise Media. Hey, I'm just trying to tell my story and keep up with the comments. I haven't done YouTube comments, so I'm still watching StreamYard comments. Okay, so for years I did the boat thing, okay, with a regular boat and all that, but I always had a fascination for sailing. Always had that. Somehow, being able to haul ass on the water without a motor going the whole time was very appealing to me. So, Jeff Burlinghoff, I shouldn't have said his whole name and just gave him an identity crisis just then. But anyway, he had a little Hobie 14, and it used to reside at Keystone Heights, a lake in Keystone Heights, which is in the middle of Florida. Anyway, for whatever reason, the lake dried up and whatever. Many think it was because of mining they were doing for gypsum, and it broke an underwater wall and drained all the water out of Keystone Lake. Anyway, where they had a dock, it was mud another 300 feet beyond the end of the dock. So it didn't work out too well. So anyway, he had the boat on at best, a motorcycle trailer. It was a homemade trailer. And you had to take hey Bass, hey Bob, you had to take the whole catamaran apart to put it on the trailer. So when you got it to where you had to sail it, you had to put it all together and there were pins and shit, it was a pain in the ass. But I learned to sail. And it was really cool. And if you've never been sailing, you should try it. Now, the monohulls and stuff like that are kind of boring, I guess, at first, but I even got excited by this. And I had a few friends that got ones that they thought they were going to live aboard, all very cool. But then I got the Hobie 18. And that thing, you could have 4 to 5 people on it, haul butt, and it was awesome. But I could also single-hand it, sail it by myself. But the times I had on that boat were amazing. They really were. And people, when you're in the water and you have rooster tails coming up from the rudders off your boat, and you were passing power boats, that is the biggest rush in the world. And it's just you harnessing the wind. It's amazing. It really is. So over the years, there were some people that were on unfortunate journeys. When I was still learning the tricks and things like that with sailing, that people had there were unfortunate things that happened. So one of my best friends, my best friend, Scott, back then he was always known as Scotty. Him and his wife at the time, Tammy, went on a trip with me. And it was chilly, man. It was like, I don't know, February, something like that. But I was gung-ho about this shit. I was ready to sail any weekend I could. And so I took him out there with Tammy and proceeded to turn the boat on its side. It was ugly. They were cold. They were miserable. They hated the trip. Okay? And it kind of sucked. Because I wanted to show them a good time. But after that and along the way, there were people, yes, they had hell trips. There's always hell trips. When there's boating involved, something's going to go wrong, okay? But they had been through enough good trips that they were ready for the hell trips, if that makes any sense at all. And it should. If you're avid about something and when you feel the power, and here's the thing with the catamaran. You know, Rhonda or Dave or Frank, the hard go-getters that would usually love to go sailing with me. They understood the good times and the bad times, and they loved the thrill of catching some big wind and really hauling ass without hearing a motor buzz in the background. And it's hard for anybody that has never experienced that to understand it. One of my favorite times is okay, because the Hobie 18, the holes were 18 feet long, okay, from bow to stern. But the mast was 27 feet tall. It stuck up there a lot. You could catch a lot of wind with that bastard. So, you know, in the Hobie 14, we used to, you know, try and catch the wind and lift the pontoon up. But on a Hobie 18, you lift the windward pontoon up just out of the water. And that's where you really haul ass. So it was one day in, I don't know, October or something like that. It was near the end of hurricane season. So this hurricane had come up the Florida coast. And then it just hung out about 90 miles off of Daytona and just stalled and just sat there. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going sailing. I'm going sailing, damn it. And so before I knew it, I had Rhonda and Dave on the boat. We got out and it was this big bay. There were squall because between the time we decided to go sailing and the time we actually put the boat together and put out to sea, if you'd call it, it was in the river actually, but neither here nor there. In between those two times, when we first decided, screw it, we're going sailing, and went sailing anyway, by the time we got it all put together and got sailing, that hurricane had started moving. And it came on up before the coast. So the result, it started bringing squalls in. The wind started changing crazy directions really at the drop of a hat. And if you've ever sailed, you understand it's a lot of management for the captain because none of these other characters really knew what they were doing. I just would tell them stuff to do, you know. But when the wind shifts around like that, it's crazy. So we flipped over. We got it together, flipped it back over. But then the wind shifted again, knocked us back down. And then I lost my two crew members. So on the second time of it going sideways, I was helpless. And meanwhile, the Coast Guard, Marine Patrol, police helicopters, they're all showing up because one boat had come by and they saw me. I was more visible because I was on my Hobie Cat, and you know when it's sideways, the trampoline is sticking straight up in the air. So they saw me good. They got close, and I yelled to them, "Man overboard! Man overboard!" You know, and pointed over to them. So that's what got the Coast Guard and the police and all that over there. You know, while they went and got them. So me, I forgot an important part. Okay. So on the second time we tried to turn the boat back over, they were still not people overboard at that time. It flipped over. We got it flipped over. But then the wind shifted again. So the sail whipped around. I couldn't free the ropes. And it took off. So I'm hanging on the back bar of this thing on a Nantucket sleigh ride before it finally tipped over again. I was not in control. So then that's when all the mayhem started with the Coast Guard and police and Marine Patrol, whatever. So what was funny was, okay, a catamaran on its side, the trampoline, the part you sit on, stand on, or whatever, it goes between the two hulls, and it is like a trampoline. It acts as a sail. So where we were at, I realized, oh man, it's pulling me towards shore. The sailboat was sailing itself towards shore, and I'm like, I don't know, I got 100 feet away, and I decided to jump over the side. I jumped over the side, and I could touch bottom, and I'm like, yeah, baby. So the boat's on its side. So I just walked the mast up, and the wind had calmed down. The storm was past. The storm had gone. Um, so I sailed back out to the Marine Patrol boat that had my two passengers on it, Rhonda and Dave. And so I cruised back out there to pick them up. And dude, when the wind is like smooth and steady, you can sail a boat just like it has a motor. You just got to know what you're doing. It was cool as shit. And so I sailed out there, and the Marine Patrol guy goes, well, can you stop so that I can transfer the passengers? And I said, no, I can't do that. You gotta do a sailboat dead in the water. I don't have a motor. I just have the wind. You need to match me, and then they crossed over. And so that's what he did. That was cool. But that was one of the hairiest sailing adventures I ever had. I will say that. I mean, I've spent a night out in the Atlantic Ocean before and whatnot, but that was the hairiest trip as far as being worried about my life. I mean, the time I spent the night out in the ocean, I'd sailed to Jacksonville Beach, gone through Mayport, the inlet there, the St. Johns River, hit the beach, went up and got some beers, had some beers, got some beers for the trip back. And on the trip back, it got dark. And there's a place where the St. Johns River crosses the Intercoastal Waterway. And at the same time, a Crowley Maritime barge was coming through. And those fucking things are huge. I mean, they like carry 6 levels of semi trucks or whatever, and they don't really turn very good. So anyway, I had to take evasive actions to keep it from running over me. And I got confused about the lights, the navigational lights in the channel. So I wound up, it's like, what? What's that ding, ding, ding? It was the seabell that's at the entrance to the inlet. And it's like, well, I guess I'm just sleeping out here. And that's what I did. Jackrabbit, you know what? I'm telling you what, I'm a good captain, Jackrabbit. Damn it, Jim. See, you gotta understand, Jackrabbit, is that all this gives you experience. Now, Scotty would probably think the same as you, but I progressed a long way since then. That's pretty funny that you said that. I haven't really been paying attention to the chat. Okay. All right. Thanks, Roland, for being in here. Dude, you know what's funny at Maddie's? Maddie, I can't tell you how many times I've been out on the catamaran and been out there and walked along the pontoons and shit like that and been drinking the whole day and don't feel wobbly at all, whatever. Dock the boat, get it on shore, and I am stumbling all over the place. You talk about sea legs, man, sea legs are freaking real. I'm telling you, man, you get used to that motion in the ocean, and then when you get off the ocean, you are wobbling all over the place. And being where you're at, Maddie, I'm sure you've had some extended times on boats. So I'm just saying, okay, like I've been through many hobbies throughout my life. Boating was the first one. I always wanted a sailboat, and it was 20 years after I first got a boat that I got my first sailboat. And but in between that, I played with RC flying, and it started out with the U control shit where it's the two wires, no throttle, it's just full blast the whole time. You try not to crash. Then with the RC thing, that didn't work out so well either because I bought a big motor and a acrobatic plane, and I was embarrassed to fly it around people that knew how to fly at the time. But then I got into small planes and I found a mentor, Larry. It was cool as shit. I love flying. And it was pretty cheap too, especially since Larry, my mentor, paid for most of it. It was 70, he had a pilot's license, so it was $75 an hour to rent the plane, but that was only $75 of airtime. So you could have a plane for like an hour, or excuse me, 4 hours, I think it was. But if you only flew it for an hour, they'd only charge you for an hour. It had to be back in 4 hours. I think they charge you for more time if you took longer than 4 hours. But we used to fly it from the east coast of Florida over to Punta Gorda on the west coast all the time. Eat breakfast and then fly it back. It was badass. Oh, and Dana, I would usually have a Bloody Mary. But the funny thing is, Larry had the pilot's license, but he loved having a autopilot. And I basically was his autopilot. Oh yeah, this way. Be fine. The Jackrabbit, I'm telling you, if you have the right sailboat or catamarans, I mean, I've sailed some monohulls there, gotten some up to some pretty good speed, but catamarans gonna kick their ass every damn time. Yes, you are. You were pussy, Carlos. Prick. Um, but I mean, the flying was awesome. I always wanted to do, because the same place we used to rent the planes from, they had like WW2 trainers and stuff like that you could take a ride along in, but they were way expensive. But I always wanted to do one of those. I always wanted to do one of the fighter pilot things. I mean, how many of y'all have thought to do that? Just make sure you have an air sickness bag. Just saying. No, that's some kind of cat. Hey, Ron, how are you? You know what, Ron? I'm not really feeling better. Well, I am feeling better. I am in better spirits. Let's just put it that way. I know. I don't know what rogue kitty that is. You know, I have a hole in my wall, Maddie. So there are some wild cats that I've been feeding, and they come in when they're letting me know I am hungry. You know, I like the river rat. I know what you mean about being a river rat, Jackrabbit. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, they have to be broken for me to look good, Polly. Prick. Yeah, see, you know, Maddie, 27-foot offshore boat, that's just too power hungry for me. Alley cat, how are you, Allie? I love my cats, Allie. I do. Murderous little bastards that they are. I still love them. That was pretty cool. The live fly stuff Bill was doing, Maddie. I didn't catch yours. Did it ever happen? I don't know. I just always told, I mean, sailing was always the cat's ass for me. And it's hard to describe unless you've done it. Um, you know, everybody's done the four wheelers, the jet skis, or whatever. But when you harness the wind, just nature blowing its balls off out there, and somehow you're managed to pilot a craft and go where you want to go, that means something. Not everybody can do that. It takes um it takes skill, I'm telling you. I've literally driven among boats like I had a trolling motor on my sailboat without a motor on my sailboat just because I knew how to control the wind. And that's what it's all about. Yeah, were there a few scary times? Absolutely. I'm just saying, unless you've done it, you don't know. I mean, how many of you that have flown have done some really cool maneuver because you figured out in the process of while you were flying how the wind was moving and did a really cool trick because of it. And it's kind of the same way with sailing. You know, you see the wind ripples coming across the water, you're like, oh, I see how those are coming. And then you change your direction to make the most of the direction those wind ripples are coming from. And all of a sudden, the boat leans over, you know, and the wires start humming. And if you got good wind, it'll start zinging. The wires will actually sound like you're playing a harp or something. And you push it over, get up to about that degree, and you were just hauling ass. Did you never hear fart? Groaned Psyche. That's only when you were downwind. You had to be downwind for that. So anyway, I just wanted to throw some of my sailing stories out there. There are many more that deserve to be mentioned. Nah, you don't want to smell Ed's wind. I don't know. It hasn't been very fragrant lately, Drone Bone. But I don't know. Uh, I've always loved flying. I've always loved sailing. And to me, the two are connected. And I can't think of how many places I've been during the courses of flying and sailing where I wish I'd had a drone. It's just unbelievable. And you always want to be upwind. Yeah, well, none of my stories are quite as horrific as Vietnam stories, Maddie. So that's a good thing. Most of the stories I want to tell are happy and fun. Not that there's not perilous times in them. I've had a lot of sailing trips that were perilous. Like, you know, getting turned around by the big old barge and stuff like that and spending the night out in the ocean. And it's funny because I looked up the chart later on and it's like, no anchoring allowed because of possible unexploded mines. And that's where I spent the night, anchored with the unexploded mines. But I never made one go off, and I cruised on back without an incident. So it was pretty cool. It was weird waking out on the ocean, up on the ocean. But years ago, with Rhonda and with Dave Sapp, Rhonda met us down there in Palatka. And it was a race from Palatka to Orange Park, the mud race. I guess mug race, MUG, excuse me, not mud. Not that there wasn't plenty of mud along the St. Johns River, but anyway. So Dave and I took the boat down from Jacksonville, put in Jacksonville, and sailed her 38 miles down to Palatka, where we docked at the city dock and spent the night on her. Now, there's no cabin on this. It's just a catamaran, trampoline, open trampoline, whatever. There's no cover over you at all. But it's night. Who needs cover other than for the bugs? So the next morning, Rhonda meets us down there. So she would be the third crew person of the sailing race. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was the first race I'd ever been in. I'd never been in a race. But it seemed like a fun thing to do. So, what the hell? So, anyway, time came for the whistle to blow. You're supposed to sail around circles or whatever. And then they blow a whistle, whatever. And then you set off up the river. So, the way the wind was, it really sucked. It was really one of the most boring sails I'd ever done because the wind was never in the right direction. Because a Hobie Cat does best when the wind hits it on its side, or even almost towards the front, But from the back, it sucks. And there were people out there with catamarans that had what do they call them? They're like this big balloon sail that goes a spinnaker that goes way out in front and it really catches the wind. But as fast as you're going to go is as fast as the wind is blowing. Because the whole idea behind a catamaran is the way the sails are done. It catches the wind from the side and it makes it like a jet engine. The two sails, the jib and the mainsail, are like wind foils, if you will. And they jet the wind through that and amplify it. If your wind is coming from the backside, you're not going faster than the wind. That's the way it is. But if the wind's hitting you from the side, you can go much faster than the wind that is hitting you. Because it makes like this jet propulsion thing. And that's where it's badass. I don't know, I could have lost all you. What? Did I forget? What was I talking about? I didn't think I lost my train of thought. I've been talking about this all the time. Maybe I just went offline as far as the wind thing. I don't know. I just always found that amazing how you could go faster than the wind because I always thought of sailboats as just being pushed along. But it's not like that at all. You get that right jet stream going, and dude, you're off to the races. I had my other favorite memory of sailing is 4th of July weekend, 1989. Now, perhaps this was just karma. I don't know. But what was one of my favorite sailing weekends was also my worst. 1989 is when it happened. So in 1989, for July 4th weekend, I went down to Melbourne, Florida, near where Mitch lives. Many of my family members live. I went down there and on the Banana River, Indian River. The Banana River was close by, but the Indian River was where his place was at. The only thing between you and the sea breeze was Merritt Island. And Merritt Island was maybe 3 miles wide at that point, and the Indian River was wide as shit. So the island kept the swells down, but it didn't block the wind, and the wind was ripping. And I took 3 of my cousins out, and most of y'all have seen these pictures. 2 of them were my cousins. And one was a friend of the cousin. Anyway, I took them out there, and they definitely had a good time. I had a anchor that had like a little collar. It looked like a what's this thing with the 4 thorns? It looked like a grappling hook, but there was a little collar on it that held the fins held together. We were hauling ass, and that fell off the back of the boat. The collar slipped down, and the fins spread out, and it ripped one of the fins off. It's an anchor, for quad's sake, and it was skipping across the water like that. Anyway, it was a great trip, and they had a great time. And one of the cousins said, "Hey, you want to have sex with this friend of mine?" I mean, literally, they got so excited about the trip. The cousin was offering me. Never mind. I won't say anything more. But I mean, it's memory like that. I mean, it's like I just don't know. Awesome stuff. And that's how I feel about flying today. I mean, flying is everything. All right, good night, Drone Bum. This has gone on long enough. And how long has this gone on? Let's see. Oh, 42 minutes. Holy crap. So, I mean, I'm just running my mouth. I've been meaning to do some stories, but I wanted to say some stuff about my selling thing because who knows, I could drop dead at any moment. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that anymore. I keep saying, Carlos, I'm gonna I still want to try and do I might do that, Maddie. I might do that. I don't know. It's only 7:23 now. I think it's always been a miracle that I've caught him when I have. But I mean, like Maddie. Maddie lives in Fort Lauderdale, for fuck's sake. So I know he's been dealing with boats all his life, probably. And if you've done anything with boats, man, you just fall in love with them. Yes, they are a hole in the water into which you pour money. Yes. But if you use them every week, it's not quite like that. It's when you let a boat sit for a couple, 3 months and don't do anything with it. That's when all the shit goes to hell in a handbasket. And it's the same way with a sailboat and with your drones, too, for that matter. Nothing likes to sit still. It needs exercise. Yeah. Will it break down? Well, yeah, now you know where the weaknesses are, and so you can get it fixed. That's the way mechanical things are. So I'll try and make it there at 10 o'clock, Maddie. I'm going to try and do that. I try not to smile too much, Carlos, because I have a horrible looking smile. Yeah, I know. That's what I mean, Maddie. And, that's the 27 footer you're talking about. The only gas tanks we had to fill with the Hobie Cat was the beer tanks. And the gas tank. and the gas tank in the van. That's the deal. Yeah, I can't imagine spending $600 on gas. I mean, going offshore is cool. I've done it a couple times. I took a camping trip down to the Keys one time. Went by myself, and I rented a boat. I think it was $500 for half a day. Went out to go deep sea fishing. I wanted to catch some yellowtail. That's what I was going after. That was my target, was yellowtail. So I got some chum bags, drove out off the coast. Where was I? I was at, what's the place just south of 9 Mile Bridge? Maddie? Bahia Honda. Bahia Honda. That's where I put out of. So like 5 miles out from where I rented the boat, and it had a depth finder and stuff on it. The depth went from, I don't know, 30 feet or something to 85 feet to 120 feet real quick. So I anchored there, dropped the chum thingies over, and it took, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, and you start seeing all this, these fish start swarming around. They're going into the chum trail and stuff like that. So I threw out a rig with a stainless steel leader on it. They didn't touch it. Didn't touch it. It's like, oh man, this water's too clear. I need it. So then I put on and the biggest monofilament I had was 25-pound test. So I tied a leader on that and threw that out. And first of all, I was playing like freshwater fisherman. I had the fishing line crossed with my finger so I could feel a bite. Well, when I got a bite, it stripped the line off so fast it immediately cut a cut in my finger that hurt like hell. I mean, like, oh my God. I mean, literally, it felt like half my finger was cut off. So I'm already stressed and whatever about that. And then it went down and broke the line off. Just like that. So I went back to the steel leader. Nothing would touch it. Nothing. Went back to clear leader. Bam! Just like that. I mean, the fish hit it right away because, you know, they just don't like that stainless steel shit, man. They can see it. They can't see the clear mono, but I needed 50-pound mono at the least because I'm pretty sure most of what was hitting me was the groupers. And the first thing they do is dive under the rocks and stuff, and they cut you off just like that. Well, it was fun. My finger was sore for a couple days after that. and it was so stupid too because it was windy that day and the seas, I don't know, 5 foot seas, something like that. And it was, I don't know, 26-foot boat, if that. And I'm like, dude, you being too close to the stern, if you fall over the backside, you got nobody else on the boat. You're going to have to be able to swim back to the boat. That didn't happen, fortunately. So I'm still here. But I don't know. I just love the water. I love boats. And I can swim pretty good. I can probably float on my back for as long. I suck at floating on my back anyway because I have no fat. But I know how to do it. And I could probably survive for days if a shark didn't eat me. But see, I'm not much appetite for a shark, okay? No, I understand Jackrabbit FPV. There's a lot of different fishies in the sea, and a lot of them are not good to eat. Pufferfish. Oh Lord. There's some freshwater fish that aren't good to eat either, like mudfish, particular types of catfish. Now, wahoo fishing, all right, okay, Maddie. Wahoo fishing, I've said this for years. Okay, for years, I've been into boating. I did the boating magazines and all that. I've seen people catch wahoo. In every video I've seen of somebody catching a wahoo, I'm saying wahoo because those bitches are badass. And I'll tell you what else is much maligned. I've caught a few barracuda in my day down at Boca Raton Inlet. And dude, I didn't know what I had when I hooked into that thing. But he sure mangled my gear, man. My stainless steel leader looked like a slinky when I finally got him off of it. Yeah, that's crazy, man. I mean, again, I've seen when the wahoo have been captured, and again, it's like every time I see that, one has to think wahoo, because they're just incredibly powerful fish, fast fish. I've never caught a wahoo. I've caught a snook. It was a small snook, but it was still fun. Hey, Drone Pull, how are you, brother? I'm just hanging out. I was just telling some old sailing stories. Yeah, I don't doubt that, Maddie. So how do they taste? I've had they're kind of built like Spanish mackerel, but way bigger. And Spanish mackerel can be kind of fishy, but not too bad if you cut the bloodline out. And a lot of people don't know about that. But they're lean and they're meant to be fast. Wow. That's a lot. Dolphin's good meat, Maddie. It's good stuff. You just send some of that shit out. 200 pounds is a lot. Good meat, though. My. My is delicious. There was a place, where was it? It's in Deerfield Beach. The blackened dolphin they did was awesome. Blackened dolphin was really, what was the name of that place? My brother turned me on to it. I miss South Florida, Maddie. I mean, I enjoyed it down there. I even did some shit in Miami. Not recreational, but I did like, what is that? It's not the Tamiami Trail. What do they call it? It runs from Hialeah towards Winter Springs or something. But you pass all these cool water flows from the Everglades, and the water is clear as shit. But they have all these warnings about mercury in the water and shit like that. I guess from the sugarcane fields north of the flow. But I mean, the water was so clear, like, oh, how could you not eat these fish and they'd be perfectly healthy? But no, mercury, Chrome Avenue. It might have been Chrome Avenue. 27 rings a bell. They're probably the same one. So anyway, the road, if you keep going to it, goes to Naples. And I got almost to Naples, and then I turned around and went back. And there was a road that ran to the north. So I hit that. It eventually hit I-275, I guess it is, or 285. But along it went north and south, and along the way there was these huge fences along the road. I mean, like 20 feet high, and it kept talking about panther crossings and stuff like that. And that was to get up to 275, I guess it was, whatever Tamiami Trail that runs from my Tampa to Fort Lauderdale. So then I turned. I was living in Deerfield Beach, so I turned east there, and then in the interstate, there's a deer running around. I actually called 911 for it. I can believe it, Maddie. Yeah, it could. I after having driven it, I could see where it could be very dangerous. Yeah. Now, see, I always thought, okay, like the Gulf. The Gulf is so weird. I've never fished the Gulf. I've been on the Gulf before, um, but in South Florida, you have to go far less distance-wise offshore to get some nice clean water because the Gulf Stream is right out there. The the Gulf is like a freaking bathtub. I mean, I've been to Tampa. That's it. I've never fished offshore in Tampa. Never done it. So I don't know. It just kind of reminds me of the Sargasso Sea. Just a dead place. Hey, Northeast journalist. How are you? I don't know what I'm doing now. I'm just rambling. I was talking about sailing earlier, and then I'm over with that. You know. So I really should end this. Actually, now that I think about it. But then we got into talking about saltwater fishing and stuff like that, and it just kind of went on. Let's see how long I've been doing this. Just over an hour. Okay, so I guess I'm going to end this now because I'm out of things to say, and y'all are kind of winding down too. But I would like, okay, here's this thing. I've been wanting to do these stories, so now I've done the sailing story. About me sailing and my love of boats. So I'm going to have to do another one. There's a few others I want to do just to kind of tell my story. And all of you have stories to tell. I know you have. So I would encourage each and every one of you to do a short story or a long story, you know, about a particular passion in your life, whatever it may be. Like during the course of my life, I have had many passions. I had a passion for boating. I've had a passion for flying regular planes, and then later a passion for flying drones and stuff. A passion for camping, a passion for camping, a passion for fishing. And each of those passions that you've had along the way are worthy of sharing. And there is somebody that will appreciate those stories. So I encourage all of you to do just that. Because you put it on the tube, man, it's there forever. Thanks, Matt. Maddie, I appreciate that. And you know, it's weird because over my lifetime, see, I'm an old bastard, 62 years old. See, today it's easier because everybody has a cell phone. So therefore, they have a video camera in their hand. Yeah, it can be raining at sometimes or whatever, but you're more likely to be capturing a great event than I was 20 years ago. Like a lot of my sailing and stuff, I have pictures of just putting the boat together, but not when I'm out on the water. So take advantage of all of that. And one day, your kids or your grandkids or your great grandkids will appreciate that. I'm just telling you. So do it. Don't be shy. Do some vlogs and get on with it. So I'm going to leave that as my final note. And you take care, everybody. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for being here. I really mean that.